Welcome to the deep dive.
Hey there.
Today we're digging into some really interesting insights from Sam Altman. He was speaking at Sequoia Capital's AI Ascent event.
Right, focusing on his future of work discussion. We've pulled out what we think are the key parts about AI right now, and maybe more importantly, where it seems to be headed pretty soon.
Exactly. And our mission here, for you listening, is to really extract the actionable stuff. We're talking about how different generations are using AI, which is fascinating.
Yeah, and its role in coding, which sounds like it's becoming huge, plus where the value might be created in the next year or so.
We'll also touch on, the whole large company versus small company dynamic in AI innovation.
And, maybe surprisingly, a bit about navigating challenges, the tougher side of things. We want to unpack all this in a way that's clear and, hopefully, engaging.
Okay, let's jump in. The first thing that really stood out, for me anyway, was this generational difference in how people are using AI. It's not just subtle.
No, not at all. Altman described younger users almost like they're using AI as a new kind of operating system.
An operating system. How so?
Well, they're not just asking it simple questions. They're setting up complex systems, like connecting the AI to multiple files, using really specific prompts they've maybe even memorized.
Wow, okay. So really integrating it deeply.
Exactly. It suggests it's becoming a fundamental tool for them, not just an add-on. It hints at a real shift in how they approach problems, how they synthesize information.
Which is a stark contrast to how he described older users.
Right, more like a Google replacement.
Mm.
Using it for information retrieval, asking straightforward questions. Still useful, but different.
And then there's that middle group, 20s and 30s, using it more like a life advisor.
Yeah, for broader decisions. It's this clear generational divide, as he put it. He even compared it to how smartphones were adopted.
That makes sense. The younger crowd just dives in.
They integrated it much faster.
Yeah.
So the question this raises, and it's a big one, is what does this mean long term?
Right. Will we see like a skills gap widen because of this?
Or will everyone else catch up? And what kind of support might people need? It's definitely something for individuals and companies to think about.
Absolutely. Okay, let's shift a bit. Coding. Altman seemed to position AI's role in coding as, well, more fundamental than just another feature.
Oh, definitely. He was very clear. Coding is more central to the future of OpenAI itself. It's not just a vertical they're playing in.
So they're using it internally quite a bit already.
Yeah, he mentioned their own teams are using AI to write meaningful code, though he kind of dismissed counting lines of code as an insane metric, which seems fair.
Right, it's about the capability.
Exactly. The vision is AI models generating whole programs, custom code, basically allowing the AI to actuate the world by calling APIs and interacting with other systems directly.
Okay, that's potentially huge if AI starts writing significant amounts of code.
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How does that transform software development? And by extension, pretty much every industry that relies on software.
Are human developers designing the systems, overseeing the AI?
That seems like a likely shift. Maybe developers become more like architects, defining the high-level needs, ensuring the AI's output works, making sure it's secure.
It could massively speed things up, right?
Yeah.
Making custom software way more accessible.
Potentially, yes. A dramatic acceleration, which, again, for anyone in tech or thinking about going into tech, you have to ask,
Yeah.
how do you fit into that future? What skills become most valuable?
Critical questions. So thinking about the near term, say the next 12 months, where did Altman predict the most value creation in AI?
He highlighted three main areas. First, just building more infrastructure, the plumbing needed for all this.
Makes sense. Need the foundation.
Second, smarter models,
Okay.
just continuing to improve the core AI capabilities.
Okay.
And third, he used the term scaffolding for societal integration.
Scaffolding, what's that mean practically?
I think it means the tools, the frameworks, the safety protocols, everything we need to actually use these powerful AIs effectively and safely in our real lives, in our jobs.
Got it. So the practical application layer.
Exactly. And specifically for 2025, he expects agents doing work to be a big theme.
AI agents actually performing tasks.
Yes, with coding being a dominant example of that. He also mentioned potential for AI in scientific discovery, picking up steam in the next year.
And looking a bit further out, he mentioned robots.
Yeah, longer term, maybe around 2027, he predicted robots moving from just, intellectual tasks to physical ones, becoming serious economic value creators in the physical world.
Wow, okay. From mind work to physical work.
It's a big leap.
Yeah.
So for you listening, the takeaway is probably to think about how you prepare for these agents and robots. What skills complement AI?
Creativity, critical thinking, complex problem solving, the human stuff.
Precisely. And exploring how AI can augment what you already do, or even create totally new opportunities.
Okay. Now, another point that was, let's say, quite pointed was about company size and innovation.
Yeah, he didn't hold back there. He basically said smaller companies are beating the crap out of larger ones when it comes to AI innovation.
Which he sees as typical for big tech shifts, right?
Exactly. Not unique to AI. His reasoning was that large organizations just get incredibly stuck in their ways. Decision-making is too slow. He used the example of, like, annual security councils trying to deal with AI's pace.
It's just not fast enough.
Not even close.
Yeah.
And he predicted a sort of pattern for the big players. First, they resist, they fight it, maybe pretend it's not a big deal.
Denial.
Right. Followed by capitulation and a last-minute scramble, which he suggested might just be too little, too late.
Ouch. That's a stark warning for established players.
It really is. And it kind of echoes what we were saying about the generational divide, doesn't it? The same inertia you see in some demographics adapting to AI seems to plague large organizations too.
So the question for people in those larger companies is, what? How do you fight that inertia?
Yeah, how do you build agility? Maybe it's smaller, autonomous teams, more delegated authority, creating safe spaces for experimentation. There are probably lessons to be learned from the startups.
Definitely something to chew on if you're in that environment. Okay, lastly, the conversation touched on something a bit more personal, navigating adversity.
Which is relevant for anyone trying to build anything new, really, not just tech founders.
True. What was his take?
It was interesting. He suggested that while the challenges might get bigger over time, the emotional sting of them can actually lessen. You build resilience.
Okay, you get used to the pressure cooker.
Sort of, but he made a crucial distinction. The hardest part often isn't the crisis moment itself, but the fallout after.
The aftermath.
Yeah, like day 60 onwards.
Yeah.
The long, slow process of rebuilding, picking up the pieces, getting momentum back. That's where he felt there wasn't much guidance.
That's a really insightful point. We focus so much on the fire, not the cleanup and rebuilding.
Exactly. And that applies way beyond startups. Think about any major personal or professional setback. The immediate crisis gets attention, but how do you sustain yourself through the long recovery?
It requires a different kind of strength, maybe? Sustained effort, managing motivation when things are still messy.
Right. Finding support networks for that longer haul, acknowledging it takes time. It's a less dramatic, but maybe more difficult phase.
Really valuable perspective. Okay, so let's try and wrap up the key takeaways from this Altman discussion.
Sounds good. So, first, clear generational differences in AI use. Younger people integrating it like an OS, older users more like a search tool.
Second, AI is becoming absolutely central to coding's future, potentially automating significant parts of development and enabling AI agents.
Third, the next year or so looks big for AI agents doing work, especially coding, maybe some science breakthroughs too. And longer term, robots in the physical world.
Fourth, smaller, agile companies are currently leading the AI charge, posing a real challenge to larger, slower organizations.
And finally, resilience isn't just about surviving the crisis, but about navigating that difficult, extended recovery period afterwards.
Okay, lots to think about there. So here's a final thought for you listening. Given how fast AI is moving and how differently people and companies are adapting,
What fundamental assumptions that you hold about your work, about how we learn, about how innovation happens, might need a serious rethink?
and maybe more practically, what's one step you could take, starting now, to understand these shifts better, or to start integrating AI thoughtfully into your own work or life, so you're not just reacting, but actually shaping your future with it?